big star out of me. Make a film about a man who's sad and lonely, and all I gotta do is act naturally. Well, I'll bet you I'm gonna be a big star. Might win an Oscar, you can never tell. The movie's gonna make me a big star.
Hello and welcome to Meet Me at the Movies. I am Noel Manning II. Appreciate you joining us. We've got Kaiser Soze over here beside camera one. Kaiser, one of the usual suspects right here on C19 TV. Now, that's Greg Tillman. Greg Tillman.
Yeah, I love being compared to Kevin Spacey. Thank you.
That's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about.
In a small town, yeah, great.
Also back on the Tim Cam, Tim Foster, as always, keeping us straight. Good to see you, man. God bless you, merry gentlemen. I'm glad you're here. And we've got a special guest. We'll see if he decides to come back more than one time. Douglas Davidson. Douglas and I are members of the North Carolina Film Critics Association together. And you handle all of the, I guess, the distribution of North Carolina Film Critic stuff.
For Facebook.
For Facebook. So
Yeah.
you're the guru for getting all the stuff out there.
Yeah. I'm trying to gather everything that everybody's putting out, trying to just keep a steady stream, make sure people know we're producing.
Yeah, and so if you're a Facebook person, check out the North Carolina Film Critics Association Facebook page, and you can see all the stuff that's turned out. Yes, Mr.
I've got to ask something, and this is on behalf of not only myself, but the audience potentially watching.
Yes.
You know what you're doing, basically. He obviously knows what he's doing. Why am I here? I ask myself that every week, as does everyone else.
Well,
but particularly today when, you have someone competent there, aside from being your pet monkey or something.
Well, I did get non-viewer mail, and it said,
"Oh, good.
Why is Greg here?" So
it's John Rudisill again, I bet.
John Rudisill, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Douglas, we appreciate you being here. And Greg.
And you didn't answer my question.
Well,
okay,
no, you're just an awesome guy.
Yeah, all right,
So
whatever.
That's because you're running the show. So thank you.
I do edit. I'll just edit myself out and be done with it.
Well, Douglas, we do appreciate you being here with us today.
Glad to be here.
We invited you, golly, a month or two or three ago and said, hey, come on out. We want to get you to talk a little bit about who you are, your love of film, where all that came from. And so this would be a great time to do that. And so we'll do that for the first half of the show. And then the second half, we'll review. You got a review of Shazam.
I do.
Got an early screening of that.
And you do have to say it like that. It's Shazam. It's got the exclamation point.
I watched it when I was a kid on Saturday mornings.
I did
There you
too.
go.
Yeah.
Every time
The
Gomer
Shazam
Pyle said it.
ISIS Hour.
The Shazam ISIS Hour.
So we're going to talk about Shazam. Shazam, after we'll get Gomer Pyle to come on and do that Shazam.
Shazam!
And we'll see if we have time for any other movies, but appreciate you being here.
No, thank you for having me.
Talk a little bit about your love for film. Well, you've got a website. Let's go ahead and get that out there. You have a website called Elements of Madness.
That's correct.
What the heck does that have to do with cinema and film? That's my first question as it relates to that.
Not a problem. It actually started at the beginning, my love of film.
Okay.
Early, young, little, what have you. I've always grown up loving stories.
Okay.
I've got two siblings. My mom's family is huge. My dad's family is huge. And whenever we'd sort of get together, do special stuff, we'd watch movies. And so there's just something about a good movie that really just creates a memory.
Okay.
And creates an association. Kaiser Soze, I imagine, would agree with me. Because there's an association with that sort of helps create that memory. And
Good and bad memories.
Yeah.
We were talking about that before we went on the air.
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so for me, movies have a way of just becoming a time capsule of a moment in your life and something that you can discuss and can sort of transcend time to create new meanings and what have you. So Elements of Madness is actually a quote, part of a quote from Loquacious Sikenna. In all great talent lies an element of madness.
Okay.
So if you're
That explains you.
Yeah, right.
and for me, I come at my film criticism from an academic perspective.
Okay.
I studied film as an undergrad at UNC Asheville. Go Bulldogs! It's about as sportsy as I get, but go Bulldogs!
My daughter's there now. Yeah, she understands.
Yay!
Yep.
Yay!
It's a great place.
Yes, it is. So I studied film there as an undergrad, minor in philosophy, went to graduate school and used that to study film as well.
He corrects, minored in philosophy and studied
he's-
film.
And you're making a living somehow? I'm confused.
Me too. But me too. But So after I finished graduate school, I was looking for work, jumping from internship to contract gig and what have you, and found as a way to spend my time, keep my writing skills sharp, I'd start writing movie reviews.
Okay.
And it was already something that I loved doing, but really putting pen to paper about films that I was watching,
Yeah.
films that I had watched, films that were coming out, really was a great way for me to stay active and keep my brain really working. And in 2014, Cameron Lee, who runs the website Culture down in Charlotte,
Yeah.
CLTURE, he had put a post up looking for a critic. I was available, he liked what I was doing, and that's sort of what moved me on the professional track.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's really sort of where it began, and after working with Cameron for a while, and I still do.
You say Cameron, I keep thinking about James, my friend
me
James.
too.
You know?
Sorry, not the same guy. But after working with Cam for a while, I realized I really wanted to be doing this for myself, and that's
Yeah.
where I had actually built Elements of Madness in grad school, and turned it into a film criticism site.
Right. And you do have user submissions or other film critics that will submit to that as
Absolutely.
well.
I am open for submissions. Of course, we've got our own voice and want to make sure
Right.
that it's a good fit. But Hunter Heilman, who is an NCFCA member as well, he's been writing for me for a few years since a few months.
Yeah.
Feels like years. Feels like years, just because I've known Hunter for so long.
Yeah.
And of course, we just got a new addition. Thomas Manning is now writing for us as well. He's just done his first one, The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, the Netflix original, and he's got 2 more reviews coming for us.
Very cool.
I had
Very
no
cool.
idea.
So, Greg, if you want to submit, there are a lot of restrictions involved, of course.
I think the main was I need to watch a movie
Exactly.
once in a while. That's been a problem lately.
You took it right out of
Yeah,
my mouth. So
yeah.
that's the first thing. Watch a movie, and then ask. and and it may not be the movie that you're watching that he'll let you
I
review.
have a question. Did your philosophy degree and background, does that help you in some way?
I absolutely think that it does, because depending on, and granted it's been years since I've really stuck my nose in a specific
Which
philosopher.
means you don't remember anything about
But
it.
no. The best thing about philosophy is that it's about thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to film review, and there's one film that I saw recently where this really was helpful, it was The Public, the Emilio Estevez film. Because it's about more than what you're seeing, it's about what's going on in the background. It's the subtext of it. And so I found that my philosophy degree has really helped to just get a sense of not only what is it that they're doing, but what is it also that they're trying to do, and how well does it serve the message?
Gotcha.
So when you look at the meaning, the universal message, and the
Absolutely.
themes, those things really come into play
Absolutely.
for philosophy. Awesome. So what are those early films going back to your childhood that you first remember? You're talking about making those memories, making those moments.
Yeah.
What are some of those or those flag in the ground moments for you?
For me, it's a lot of Richard Donner movies.
Okay.
Superman the movie. I'm actually a huge Superman fan.
You are
Yeah.
too, right?
Yeah, I'm just thinking I was about out of high school when that came out, so I'm feeling a little ancient at the moment. But yeah, Superman 2 is better than Superman 1, don't you think?
I
A lot of people
I
think
think in a
so.
lot of ways it's a stronger film.
Yeah.
And certainly, I know my wife would agree, the ending of Superman 2 is way better than the ending of Superman 1.
True.
The whole turning around the Earth doesn't
Playing
really
with
fly
time
for her.
travel, it's always trouble.
It
But-
flew for Superman.
Yes, and here's the thing is that thematically, though, it works really well. It's not a strong literal ending, but it's a great philosophical
Right.
ending.
Did you like Quest for Peace?
I
Superman 4.
did. I still
you
do.
really?
I haven't
Wow.
revisited it in a while.
Wow.
But
So
here's
thanks
the
for
thing.
joining us. See you around.
Yeah. But here's the thing: is when looking at film, you also have to consider the audience that it's aimed at. And
They were going
while,
younger and younger as the as it went
Absolutely.
along,
And Quest
yeah.
for Peace has a lot of things in it that were really aimed at a younger audience more so than the first few films.
Yep.
I mean, certainly Superman 3 terrified me. The woman who gets absorbed by the
Yeah,
machinery.
that was a cool little scene. actually,
Oh,
yeah.
it's a great sequence that freaked me out as a young child.
Still freaks me out. Yeah. I'm not a young child anymore. So Richard Donner, fan of what other Richard Donner type films are you drawn to?
Goonies, of
Yeah,
course. The
yeah.
Goonies, of course. I couldn't help but feel like there was a little bit of that Goonies element in Shazam.
Yeah, okay.
That David Sandberg put
Okay.
together. And we'll, of course, get to that a little
Yeah,
bit later, it sounds
yeah.
like. But Goonies, the Lethal Weapon movies, yes, even as a young kid. I'm the
Yeah.
youngest of 3, so if my brothers could watch it, my parents usually went go ahead. Although probably one of my earliest memories of a theater experience is Return of the Jedi. Apparently Jabba the Hutt came up and my brothers and I just went tearing
That's
looking for my parents.
one of the youngest memories.
If it helps, most of the movies that I talk about when I'm in class teaching, that's the look I have.
You know, I got an AARP card in the mail the other day, and between these two events, I may just crawl in the hole.
So
I think I
special
was-
effects films, were you drawn to special effects films?
Not necessarily. I always liked films that told a strong story.
Okay,
And
even younger.
Even younger. The trick for me is, and I hope I pronounced this right. I suffer from a condition called hypogogia,
Okay.
where when you wake up in the middle of the night and your brain still thinks it's sleeping, you see things as if you're still dreaming.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of the Nightmare on Elm Street stuff,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Halloween movies, Friday the 13th, I didn't need to see those movies because I was seeing that as a little kid.
Oh, wow.
And finding out as an adult that this is a thing was
Yeah.
really neat. So a lot of special effects films
And unless you
would freak me out incredibly.
Wow.
And
That's
just was
terrifying.
fuel to
Yeah.
yeah, it was just fuel to the fire. So I have an appreciation for that genre
Okay.
from a technical perspective. Not gonna watch it.
So you don't watch horror films for the most part, if you can help it.
As a film critic, I do,
Okay.
but it's because I have more of an awareness of what did freak me out.
Okay.
It goes to, if you will, something that you've talked about before, the baggage
Yeah.
that a critic brings to it.
Yeah.
I'm aware of my baggage. If I'm watching a horror film, I know it's going to freak me out.
Right.
So I will look at something different. For example, Braid, the Mitzi Perrone film that came out back in February. It is a horror film.
Right.
But it's the way that it's executed, I'm able to think about it in a way that it's not about the
Okay.
technical aspect, it's about the story.
Got you.
So that still affects you to this day?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Wow, that
Yeah,
sounds
it's fun.
awful.
It's a good
Yeah.
time.
Well, there's certain horror films that I choose not to go see.
Yeah.
The recent Stephen King films are really well done, well executed on a lot of different levels. It was pretty amazing. Pet Cemetery, I'm looking forward to checking that out as well. I remember seeing the original, and it was pretty freaky then as well. But I've just started going back and looking at CGI and pre-CGI practical effects that were used in films like The Thing, and of course Alien, and some of those, and that was just some creepy stuff.
Yeah.
Even today, it's still pretty creepy looking at some of that stuff. So some of that stuff freaks me out. Nightmare on Elm Street, you mentioned.
Yeah.
One of the first films that really scared me, because you go to sleep and that's when it gets you. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what? What is that? What is that? So I can understand that. Yeah.
And there's something to be said for practical effects used today. There's so much CGI that's used, you can almost look at the screen and figure out where the green screen was and go, okay, it breaks the reality
Yeah.
of it, if you will. Even if at its most fantastic, but a good practical effect,
Right.
it just keeps you locked in.
Yeah. So when you choose films to watch for entertainment purposes, still drawn to story-driven
Absolutely.
films, does it matter what kind of genre it is?
No, it really has more to do with what I'm in the mood for.
Okay.
I'll watch essentially anything, just in the way that as a young kid, I would read anything.
Right.
I was reading Shakespeare when I was in middle school for fun. I wasn't
Wait a
reading
minute.
Stephen King, but I was reading Elmore Leonard. You know, I was doing all kinds of different things in between my comic books.
I was reading Mad Magazine,
Yeah,
and he's
I
reading
was-
Shakespeare.
Oh, of course, Mad Magazine.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I couldn't afford Mad. It was cracked.
Oh, that wasn't half bad. That wasn't so bad. I read it too, yeah.
Yeah.
So the Richard Donner films, what were some of the others that are things that you were really drawn to growing up?
Well, and just because of the fantastical elements, and of course you go back to the practical effects, Flash Gordon.
Okay.
Flash Gordon, The Last Starfighter,
Yeah.
which The Last
Those are
Starfighter...
guilty pleasures, right?
Oh yeah, I mean,
Okay.
and you call them guilty pleasures, but I think any film that someone enjoys,
Yeah.
they shouldn't feel guilty about.
Okay.
I
like
agree.
it.
Shouldn't
I
feel
agree with
guilty
that, yeah.
about.
I agree.
And granted, I went and watched The Last Starfighter a couple years back. It had been a while. Some friends of mine got together. We put it on, and we went. This was cutting-edge computer technology when it
85,
first
86,
came out.
something like that, yeah.
And now it doesn't hold up as well
Yeah.
from the special effects perspective, but it's still a great story.
Okay. Yeah.
It's still
yeah,
a
yeah,
great
it was.
story.
Yeah.
And I mean, it sort of fed into the sort of arcade phenomenon we were going through with video games, and of course the sci-fi boom that was happening in the 80s.
Yeah.
So I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it is fun to go back and revisit some of those films that were our staples, either childhood or the teenage years, and see how they hold up. And I've done that with several recently, and I'm like, I'm still glad it's there, and I still have that memory of it, but technically, yeah, a lot's changed, and maybe it hasn't held up. But if the story does, That's the thing. And
As we
keep-
say, we
talk-
always say it's all about the story.
we talk about
It
that
starts
all
and
the-
ends with the story.
Yeah, the script. If you don't have that script that is solid, then it's not going to hold up. So if you can keep coming back to that, that's great. All right, other thoughts before a break?
No?
All right, any final questions before we?
Flash Gordon? Okay, never mind.
I gotta say, the
But
soundtrack.
he saved every one of us.
He did. The soundtrack for that, heck yeah.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
all over it. Freddie Mercury, Queen, good soundtrack.
Absolutely.
All right, Douglas Davidson, our guest here from Elements of Madness and North Carolina Film Critics Association, Greg Tillman over there. Tim Foster, we've only got you on camera twice.
Did he have a question?
Did you have a question? Is there a question you had? No question? Are you going to write them down and give it to us during the break? Okay. We're going to take an intermission, and we'll be right back with more Meet Me at the Movies right here at C19 TV after this break.
Me and the movies, they're gonna make a big star out of me.
Welcome back to Meet Me in the Movies. I am Noel T-Man in the second. Tim Foster back there on the Tim Cam. That's number 3, the third sighting for Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He's still wanting 6 more. But 10, I know 10 is your normal rate.
That's not going to
But
happen.
we that SAG card may not get you 10. Oh, there's 7, 5. I don't know. I don't
You know how
know.
much
I can't.
editing
I've
that
lost
costs
track. He'll make it up. He'll make
Here's
it up.
30 more minutes of editing time. Thanks, Tim.
Greg Tillman over there beside camera 1, hanging out with us as always, and yes, we're still trying to figure out why, and so that non-viewer mail, we'll let you know when we can figure it out. Douglas Davidson over to my right. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Douglas is from Elements of Madness. Check out the website. What's the website?
Elementsofmadness.com.
Okay, and so you just put a .com behind what I said, and you'll
Easy
get to
peasy.
it. Also, the North Carolina Film Critics Association, he handles the Facebook page. Check it out. You'll see a lot of the North Carolina Film Critics churning their stuff out through that Facebook portal as well.
Absolutely.
A special preview review right here with Shazam.
Shazam!
We're going to be reviewing Shazam. Did I do it right?
Yep. It's
Start
got the
Jim.
exclamation point. You got to do
Does
it.
it star Jim Neighbors?
I'll too, man.
should.
Maybe they should have Gomer Pyle like in one of the scenes or something, you know? You got an early screening for this.
Yeah, it was Fandango Access early screening.
Yeah, and they had like Saturday screenings for families and stuff early on, and they've really been pushing this film. I remember when the trailer first came out, I was like, okay, DC's kind of taking that campy version. They're scrapping the whole darkness element of it.
Good.
What?
Good.
I think it was a good
Zack
choice.
Snyder's fingerprints aren't on this one, I hope. Good.
Well, I was drawn in because I said it looks like it's got an element of big meets the greatest American hero. That was kind of how I described what I saw from the trailer. And so I'm going to throw it over to you, Mr. Douglas Davidson. Give me your thoughts on Shazam.
It's everything you'd expect it would be from the trailer and quite a bit more.
Okay.
David Sandberg, who previously had done horror films, I think it was Lights Out and Annabelle Creation, he brings some of that horror element to this because you're dealing with a magician
Right.
and a kid turning into a superhero.
Okay.
So there is sort of this fantastical element that goes on. And without getting into spoiler territory, because the good stuff isn't in the trailers, and I'm talking the really, really good stuff. Sandberg, there is darkness, sorry. There is a little
No,
bit of
that's
darkness.
Well,
But it's in the best possible way because it's used to get a deeper dive in that supernatural, mystical side of things. And it's so much fun. It is strangely the first film that actually feels like a DC Comics movie next to Aquaman. Wonder Woman was a great film, and Wonder Woman, I still think modern DC films is the pinnacle.
Right.
Solid film, great story, it's inspirational, it's aspirational. Aquaman, James Wan, we should just give all of the DC films to the horror directors because they have this wonderful ideas of how to just build worlds.
Yeah.
And talking about the practical effects from the 80s, they know how to, on a low budget, how do we make things big? James Wan, great fun adventure story, made Aquaman someone that the Super Friends would want to pick up a phone and call.
I agree.
Right?
I agree, yeah.
This Shazam is the type of movie that I wanted out of Man of Steel.
Okay.
It's a film where, sure, it's a kid becoming a superhero, and in that regard, it's aimed at little kids. It's definitely a younger audience,
Okay.
sillier gags, lower sort of humor. But this is a superhero movie where you actually feel like I could grow up and do something like this.
Okay.
Not quite the Spider-Verse, there's a hero in all of us.
Yeah.
But Sandberg and his cast, and he picked a beautiful cast. Zachary Levi playing
Yeah.
Shazam, the adult version of Billy
Yeah.
Batson, spot on.
Yeah.
It is so perfect.
But he's playing the adult version, but he's still a kid on
kid.
the inside.
Oh yeah, and that's something that Levi he sort of has this childlike quality
Yeah.
during his everyday actions. He's very hopeful, and he's always pushing people to be the best versions of themselves.
Yeah.
And that really translates into his performance here.
Yeah, I really loved him as an actor. He's just a lot of fun. I loved the TV show Chuck.
Chuck.
And
Oh,
he
yeah.
was great on Chuck, and that was one of those shows that had life. And I
Very
wish it
much.
had a much longer life, but it did have, it was complete.
Absolutely.
And so Shazam, well worth checking out for the family.
Absolutely worth checking out for the family. Be advised that because you are dealing with some magic and mysticism, there is something that pushes the envelope of that PG-13 rating just a tiny bit, a few
Okay.
sequences.
So it is PG-13.
It is PG-13.
Okay.
Had my wife and I both going, this is a family movie? But it's still at the same time, it's done in such a way that if it had been done practically, would have been far scarier and far more terrifying.
Okay.
Almost wish they'd done it.
So really? Okay,
Yeah.
so a lot of fun, but you'd
Oh, yeah.
wish they'd pushed it a little bit more.
Maybe a little bit more, but at the same time, for a film for little kids,
Yeah.
it's going to do exactly what it needs to do.
Okay.
It's a fun time at the movies, and what's really interesting is for the first act, you're kind of going, all right, where are we going with this? Then they set things up. That second act is good and entertaining, and the third act just blows it right out of the water.
Okay.
I can't wait for the next one.
So does it work on 2 levels for adults as well as kids?
I
Kind of like
think
the
so.
Batman series of the 60s did in that sense.
Well, those were playing in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
With Shazam, I think for adults, it's just a fun, turn your brain off kind of movie.
Okay.
Where for kids, it's going to be a different turn your brain off kind of movie, where it's silly and it's fun, and hey, what would I do if I had superpowers?
Okay.
Whereas adults,
I know what
it's-
I'd do. I wouldn't be here for one thing.
and certainly for adults, I think it's the fact that for those that grew up with comic books or,
Yeah.
you've seen a lot of different kinds of superhero movies coming out. This is a different tone. It's a different approach.
Okay, very cool. So what is your grade for this?
4 out of 5.
4 out of 5.
4 out
So
of
that
5,
would
very
be
strong.
on the letter scale, which we
I'll
use.
say I'm going to have to
That would be
calculate.
would that be a B or a B
Definitely
plus?
B plus.
B
Certainly
plus.
B plus,
All
A
right.
minus.
All right, B plus, A minus.
Yay, no new graphics. I was going to have to come up with a new graphic now for 5, 4 out of 5.
Well, awesome.
Definitely
I
recommend
was going to review something, but I'm having so much fun with you reviewing stuff. Why don't we dive into Brie Larson, who was Captain Marvel?
Yes.
She's got a new film called The Unicorn Store. Is that right?
That is
The Unicorn
correct.
Store. It's a Netflix original.
Yes.
And we've got just a couple minutes if you want to dive in and review that as well.
Absolutely. This film, directed by Brie Larson, it's her first feature debut. She's apparently directed 2 shorts prior to this. Evidently, this film was finished in 2017, and it's only now getting a larger distribution. But it's written by Samantha McIntyre. It is a really fun and sort of silly film. I hesitate to call it a coming-of-age film because it's about Brie Larson's character, Kit, who, after, we'll call it failing out of art school, isn't sure what to do until she gets this magical invitation from Samuel L. Jackson, playing the salesman, to show up at the store. They sell one thing, the thing you want most. And the film is her journey of getting that thing that she wants most, a unicorn, since she was a little kid. But what I found really interesting about it is that the film sort of changes as the story goes on to fit her perspective. The character, if you will, thinks that being an adult means buying graph paper, using highlighters, buying pens, things of that nature.
Doesn't it?
But not all adults do that. And so for her, it was about figuring out what being an adult means.
Right, yeah.
And as the story goes on and sort of figuring out what she thinks it means, what her parents, played by Bradley Whitford and Joan Cusack, great coupling
Oh, wow.
right there.
Good casting. I love
Oh,
both.
fantastic casting all over. But what I found really interesting is that as she comes to these realizations, the film sort of meets that and becomes less fantastical and a little bit more realistic
Wow.
as it goes forward. And for a director debut, it's strong.
Yeah.
There's some really interesting choices that she makes to communicate both what's going on in Kit's head as well as what the world she thinks sort of looks
Gotcha.
like.
So what grade would you give this if you're doing a report card?
Oh, God.
Thank you, Noel.
Flashbacks to the classroom. Again, it would be another 4 out of 5.
Okay.
4 out of 5. I really enjoyed it for the casting. I really enjoyed it for the writing.
B plus.
B plus?
B plus. B plus. A minus. It's It's for another specific audience. though.
Yeah.
It's for another specific audience.
Okay.
And Netflix is good with that.
Yeah, and Netflix has been doing some amazing and original stuff. They really, really have. I do want to, this isn't on the script there for you, Mr. Foster, so you can just bring up, sorry man, just bring up the Meet Me at the Movies logo and we'll be in good shape.
You'll get an earful after the show.
I got to tell you, a TV show, we talk about now trending, we talk about some TV shows from time to time. Talking about superheroes, you know, Captain Marvel, Brie Larson, talking about Shazam. Gotham is a TV show that I've been watching since it launched, and it's wrapping up its series. And I got to tell you, it is just solid across the board. I mean, there have been a few misses, but the casting's been incredible. The storyline and the arc of the characters just continues to blow me away, even in this final season. And if you haven't seen Gotham, I think it's season 5 now.
I think so.
It is just brilliantly written, and it combines, I think, the best of the Tim Burton-esque feel with some of the best of the Christopher Nolan.
I agree.
So check that out. Have you seen Gotham?
I've only seen bits and pieces. My wife is a fan,
All right.
but we only watch it because we have a little one, little one. It's harder to watch scheduled TV.
Yeah, and there's some pretty graphic things in there too.
Yeah.
So yeah, not for the little kids.
Nope.
Not for the little kids.
Not quite yet.
Even though Douglas is allowing his little kid to watch it. So Douglas, your website, your website again, if people want to find out more information.
Elementsofmadness.com.
Awesome. Appreciate you being here, man. We'll
Thank you so
hopefully
much.
have you back if you can make the drive.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Greg Tillman over there beside camera 1. We've got Tim Foster. The Tim Cam, I think that is number 10 that we got you. So
Dang it.
your SAG card is in good shape.
That's 11. If you were counting right, that's 11.
11. All right.
So
well,
he only gets 9 next week.
Well, the quote of the week, we do like to wrap things up with a quote of the week. This comes from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid from 1969. You know, kid, the next time I say let's go someplace like Bolivia, let's go someplace like Bolivia. So until next time, I am Noel Man II for Meet Me at the Movies and all of our cast and crazy crew here. That's a wrap.
Happy trails to you till we meet again.